Hi, I'm Flinsy, and I have been honestly dying to make a video like this. I was on Twitter the other day, and I saw some post about a YouTuber who had made a video discussing their takes on Genshin and like why Genshin fell off or whatever. And I wanted to do the same thing. I'm not going to like name names or anything because I haven't even seen the video. I decided not to watch it because I don't know, I just didn't feel like it. But I don't want anyone to like harass this person or any other like YouTubers making a similar type of video because like that's just not necessary. So in this video, what I'm going to be doing is talking about Genshin Impact, obviously, and why I think it isn't as good as it used to be. I just want to also make a little note that I do play Genshin. I used to play like all the time, all day, every day. And since then, I have taken many long breaks from Genshin. But currently, I have started getting back into the game again. And that's why I'm interested in making this video in the first place. I want to talk about Genshin Impact, why I think that it's bad. I'm going to be criticizing the game. It's going to be constructive criticism. I'm not just going to be like, oh, Genshin sucks and don't play it. Like, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to criticize Genshin Impact and explain why I actually still play the game. My final little note for the beginning of the video is that this is not scripted at all. Like, I feel like I've had this conversation so many times with, like, my sister and my friends that I just don't feel like writing a whole script for it. So, yeah, let's get started. I would say that my first main point going into this is that the story just doesn't feel as good as it used to be. I currently have not finished the entire storyline. I've almost finished the Nod Cry main story, so that's where I'm up to. I have done the majority of the side quests in the game. Like, I would say that I've done, like, every side quest, up until, maybe Natlin. Natlin is kind of when I stopped, playing the game as much as I used to. So, let me just explain my problem with the story and why I think that other people have similar issues with it. So far, we've made it through the majority of the game. While my recollection of the Mondstadt and Liyue and Inazuma stories is not the clearest because it has been probably a couple of years since I last replayed them, I do recall some kind of like whimsy to it almost. If you remember back in Mondstadt, which was like the prologue to the game, it wasn't very serious. It was kind of like your introduction. It's one of the things like if like first impressions, right? If it doesn't automatically make an impact on the player, if the player doesn't like they play the story and it doesn't feel special to them, then they're not going to keep playing it. And I think since Mondstadt was kind of sold as like the beginning of the game, like it's not very serious, that's why people are more lenient with it. It's like your first experience with the Genshin story, and it's enough to make you think, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. From what I remember, the first few nations all had a similar structure. It was kind of like you get there, something unexpected happens, and then it gets resolved. That's kind of like, obviously, the template for almost every story in the world. And what made it so good in Genshin was that it was new. This type of game, for many people, I would argue like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, this was a new type of experience. Being able to play it at your fingertips. You don't have to go into a movie theater to experience this kind of story. It was pretty cool, and it was like, okay, like let's see what they have. The first few stories, this structure worked. It really did work because the player wasn't, like, at that point, we weren't used to that kind of story, at least, like, that feel, you know? Like, I feel like Genshin had a very, like, unique take on it. And I think that's why people remember the First Nations to be their favorites or the best, because it's nostalgic. It's like we had just gotten there and it feels different. But I think now it's just old. Like, we are used to that and it doesn't feel special anymore. I would also like to criticize a common plot with Genshin, which is like the friendship is magic, like, type storyline that we kind of have. I understand that Genshin is a game that primarily children play, and like, you don't want to have any like crazy gruesome storyline because children play it. Like, I my problem isn't like, oh, I want bloodshed and gore in Genshin Impact. It's more so that, like, I wish that there was more variety in the story, because you can make a story that is, like, consumable for children without it being necessarily together we are Genshin Impact, you know? Like, it doesn't have to be all sunshine and rainbows, but it can still be, like, good and, like, interesting for children as well. And this problem is, like, it almost feels kind of lazy in a sense that it caters so hard to children, and it's also a common misconception that children don't deserve good storytelling. It's like almost as if, like, children can't understand good stories, which I completely disagree with. I think that children still deserve not slop content, because it's during, like, their most formative years, right? Like, I wouldn't say that toddlers play Genshin Impact, more so like early teens, late teens, or even preteens are playing Genshin Impact. And I think during those years, it's important for people to get, like, substance. You know, you can't just be handed, like, baby stim and be like, okay, here it is, you know? It has to have some kind of substance to the story so children can learn and grow. And not only that, like, the adults or, like, older teens who play the game still deserve something entertaining as well. It's kind of like how in, like, some shows and movies, they always add, like, the adult jokes, you know, like the like, slightly, like, inappropriate banter between the characters that makes it fun for the parents who are watching it, while it can still, like, fly over the children's heads. And again, I'm not saying that we need, like, inappropriate jokes in Genshin. I don't think that we really need that at all. Like, well, I think that would be funny. My point here with this is that, like, there can be something that is enjoyable for older audiences while still being, like, appropriate for younger audiences. And I think that's what Genshin needs. And one thing for me was that, like, the Fontaine story quest was amazing. At least from what I remember, I recall literally waking up every morning and thinking to myself, I really want to play Genshin and continue the Fontaine story quest. It was literally that good to me. Like, I vividly remember waking up every morning just to continue that story. Which I hadn't felt with any previous nation. Even Sumeru, it got to a point where I was just thinking to myself, wow, I hope that this quest gets over with, you know? Like, it gets long and drawn out. Fontaine, for me, was the last, like, memorable story that, like, really stuck with me. And I have to say that Farina's arc, Nouvelette's arc, like, all these characters, even Navia, you know, like, she's somewhat of a side character, but even she was, like, tugging at my heartstrings a little bit. Like, I was like, wow, I feel like these characters are characterized very well, and they have such beautiful designs, not only, like, physically, like, their character designs, but also, like, their story designs, like, how they behave. They all were so different. It felt good, and it felt new compared to, like, the silliness of Genshin that it previously had, you know? And obviously, if Fontaine isn't your favorite story, there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that there is a reason why Fontaine was so popular, why it got so many players to return to the game. and it really made a lasting impact. And from then, let me talk about Natland now. Imagine this. You go into a movie theater, you had gotten tickets for this new movie, and you're there watching it with some friends. You're not expecting the story to be anything crazy, but you're still hoping that you're going to enjoy it. As you're watching the film, you realize that it's really good. It's way better than you'd expected, and you'd even stayed away from any spoilers online because you just wanted to go into it with a blank slate. You finish the movie and you're walking out of the theater. You're talking to your friends, discussing nonstop about how good the movie was and the deep story that you weren't expecting to get. And now also imagine maybe a few months later, you're going to the theaters to see another movie with those same friends. Now your bar is a little bit higher, and the three of you, you're thinking, wow, I really hope that this movie is going to be something decent. Something that we can have long conversations about, just like the last one we saw. And you get into the theater, and you're sitting down, and as the movie starts, you're thinking to yourself that off the bat, it doesn't seem very special. Instead of getting up and leaving the theater, though, you decide to sit through the movie. Like, you paid for it, so you may as well sit through it and hope that it gets better. You might enjoy it. You don't enjoy it. You leave the theater with your friends and you're thinking, wow, that movie wasn't very good. It's not memorable, and it might not have been the worst thing in the world, but I'm not going to be thinking about this movie. I might not even recommend it to anybody else because it just wasn't that good. For me, that was what this shift from Fontaine to Natland felt like. It felt like I had just watched, like, the best film on the planet. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but it had felt like I just watched Obsession, and now I'm home and my mom wants to put on Chicken Little. Like, both of the movies are good, but I think that there's one that is arguably better than the other. My take on Natland isn't that the story is slop and the characters are slop, but I do think that the story and the characters could be a lot better. In Natland, no characters actually stuck with me except for Citlali and Auroron, who were very unique. They felt different, and don't even start hating on me because I said that I like Citlali, okay? There's a reason for it, and I'll talk about that later, but it's just like none of the characters were very unique. Like, you have Mualani, which she's a good character. I think that she's pretty. I like her colors, and she's a happy, excitable girl, and it's like, okay, that's great. You have Kinich, he's cool, mysterious guy. Okay, that's great. But it just didn't feel special. It just kind of felt like they were taking some popular caricatures and threw them into their game, which works sometimes, which obviously can always work, but it doesn't work just because you want it to. You have to still care about the characters. One thing that people always say is that, oh, you should read the characters, like lore. You should look deeper into the individual characters, and then you'll find one that you like. And while obviously I think that that is a completely valid point, I've seen this argument pop up, especially like during Varessa talk, because a lot of people just see her and be like, oh, she eats a lot, oh, she's like bad, like fat representation, whatever you want to say about her. But a lot of people will say like, oh, you should read her story, and I think that that's a fine argument. But if you compare it to Fontaine, where you get a lot of lore for like Focalors, Navia, Farina, Nouvellette, and other characters, and it's just like beautiful. You don't have to go and read their individual character lore to realize that these characters are traumatized or they have a very deep like backstory, you know? That is the type of character that I'm looking for. I don't want to have to go out of my way to find a beautiful character when Hoyoverse, they should have just shown a beautiful character in the story. But still, if you don't like that point, I still personally believe that even knowing most of the Natlan characters' like backstories, I just still don't really care about most of them. I think that they aren't very great characters. As for Nod Cry, I think that the characters are a bit more likable. I think that Hoyo kind of upped their game a little bit, at least compared to Natlan. But I feel like the only few characters who really stuck with me were Lauma and Flins and Varka, if Varka even counts, considering he's from Mondstadt, but whatever. To me, these three characters are all very different, but they have such interesting, like, character arcs, and they all have different struggles, different personalities, and that's what makes them so likable to me. They are deep, in a sense, rather than just, power of friendship, as Natlan was. Hey, so while we're on the topic of like characters and story, I wanted to make a quick point. And by the way, this is added in like a day after I recorded everything else. So if it sounds out of place, then my bad. Um, I wanted to talk about how there aren't really stakes in Genshin's story. And what I mean by that is, like, at this point and throughout the entire game, what they've been building up is that our biggest enemy is the Fatui. Like, well, I mean, kind of. Like, out of, like, real, like, living people, the enemy is the Fatui, right? And all of our enemies, for example, like Scaramouche, Arlecchino, Sandrone, all of them, it doesn't seem like they are our enemies. It just feels like at the end of the day, every single quote unquote evil character will get transformed and boiled down to something soft, something digestible for the players. And I would say that the earliest example of this was Raiden. When Raiden came out, she was game breaking. I remember everybody was frothing at the mouths for her. Everybody was pulling her. She had like literally she was the biggest change in the game. Like she was like the Acheron. Like maybe like not in terms of like meta shift, but in terms of popularity, she was the Acheron of Genshin Impact, which yeah, makes sense. It all adds up. Um but she was intimidating. She was evil. She was scary. And the things that she did in the Inazuma quest were low-key unforgivable. But at the end of the day, they kind of nerfed her character into the ground. Like, they turned her into some cutesy, I like sweets, I'm a cute girl type of character rather than the powerful leader that we were shown just earlier in that quest. This is probably one of my biggest gripes about like characterization. I feel like there's a lot of wasted potential with their characters, and I feel like it happens most frequently with female characters, which is very disappointing. Okay, back to the Nod Cry topic. The best part about Nod Cry when comparing it to Natlan is that while both of the stories heavily rely on teamwork, they show the importance of teamwork and cooperation and having healthy relationships, blah, 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 blah. I think that they were handled very differently because Nod Cry was a bit darker. The way I see it is that the characterization in Nod Cry was much better because they weren't being held back. Anyways, before I kill you with boredom, I think I'll get on to my next point. I just want to summarize that overall, I feel like the Genshin story just isn't as good because there's less variety and the characters and the story itself just isn't as unique. My second point here is going to be about the game itself, specifically like quality of life. So this is where I'm going to be less so criticizing like the game and I guess more so criticizing Hoyoverse. When compared to Hoyoverse's other games, there are just so many flaws, so many blatant flaws in Genshin Impact. Like, off the top of my head, I could already think of a few, such as, like, the resin cap, no storage resin, there's still no skip button, the lack of events, they don't save past events, and the gameplay loop is just really repetitive, specifically when compared to their other games. And on this topic, like, obviously there are other problems with Genshin. These are just a few that I could think of, and I think that it's just really frustrating to, like, for people like me, like, we've been playing the game since launch. It's been like 5, 4, 3 years, even just a couple of years for some players, and you already understand that Hoyoverse isn't planning on making any adjustments to these things anytime soon, and they don't really care that much about how the players feel about it. I mean, come on, if they really cared, then we would have had a skip button 4 years ago. It's just really interesting to me how Genshin Impact has just kind of turned into a cash grab rather than a decent game. We have features like Miliastra Wonderland taking up gigabytes of storage when we still don't have some of the bare minimum. Like, I can literally do like 4 domain runs every day before I'm out of resin. And mind you, Honkai Star Rail, one of their other games, has storage resin up to 3,000. So how come ours caps at 200 and we have no storage resin? Like, what's going on, guys? I remember back in the day, like, around the time Honkai Star Rail came out, people were making jokes like Genshin was, like, the mistake. Like, it accidentally got popular and Hoyoverse's favorite child is actually Honkai. Which, yeah, I think that all their Honkai games are their favorite, which, I mean, I can't get mad at them for that, but I can get mad at them for basically just leaving Genshin Impact in the dust and just using it as a cash cow. Like, they literally don't care about what the players have been asking, begging for years. Instead, it's just like, oh, okay, we're gonna ignore you. That way we can focus on our favorite games. And the problem with this is that, like, the players don't care. Like, the players literally eat up the slop that Hoyoverse hands us. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, at least stop spending money on the game. Like, I can understand, like, wanting to continue to play the game because at the moment there aren't any games like Genshin. I mean, there's Wuthering Waves, but that's a whole other thing that I'm not getting into right now. But other than, like, Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact, at the moment, I don't believe that there are any other... Well, no, there's Neverness to Everness. But that game literally just came out, and I don't know anything about it, so I'm sorry, whatever. But my point still stands. There are very few games that are of the genre of Genshin, and I can understand that many players have, like, a specific attachment towards Genshin, and they hope that the game gets better. But when we sit here and we continue spending all of our money on the game, and we continue playing the game and supporting the game, then Hoyoverse, they don't learn. They don't learn that they have to do something, because they don't have to do something. No matter what they do, no matter how little they do, their players will still continue to support them and spend all of their money on this game. It's really interesting to me how people will defend Hoyoverse to the moon and back, when honestly, if you're just a Genshin player, you have no reasons to do that. Even if you do enjoy their other games, you still don't have a reason to do that. At the end of the day, Hoyoverse is a multi-million-dollar company. They can make better quality of life functions. They can listen to their players. They can have better animations for the stories. They can make all these features that people have been wanting them to add, but they just don't, because it's cheaper to ignore it, and it's cheaper to not do that. And their players are not going to punish them for it. That's simply the fact. And I do just want to make a note. I feel like I'm getting a little bit too passionate about this. If you are a Hoyo enjoyer, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with liking these games. These games, like I said, are unique and it's a different style. It's more of an anime style, different than most other games that you can find. And I myself am guilty of this. I love Genshin Impact and I love Honkai Star Rail, and even though I don't play both of these games all day, every day anymore, I still like them. I enjoy the characters, and I don't think that there's something wrong with that, but I do think that if people genuinely want a change, you don't have to continue supporting Hoyoverse. I suppose before this section also gets way too drawn out, I guess I'll talk about why I still play Genshin and why I also still occasionally, I guess, play Honkai Star Rail. And I love talking about myself. In both Honkai Star Rail and in Genshin, I've maxed out pretty much everything. I clear endgame all the time on both of my accounts. I'm highest level. I have all my characters built, or at least as built as I can get with my horrible relic luck. But I love the games, just because for me specifically, it's the characters. I feel like the character designs are genuinely beautiful. I'm sure you can tell that my favorite character is Flinsy. I remember seeing him in that trailer and knowing that I was going to pull for him, even though he got 3 seconds of screen time. It's just their character designs are very beautiful, very unique, and the stories are typically very good. I know that I did say, players shouldn't have to, read the individual character's story to like a character, and I still think that point is valid, but I read character story. That's one of the reasons why I really like this game, because I do like their character stories. I think that they're good. It's rare to find a game like this. It's surprisingly low quality for what it is, but the characters are amazing. The story, you can tell that there are some writers who genuinely care about it. They like it. They want to make a good product. One thing about Genshin that's also stuck with me for years is that I love open world games. I do actually play Wuthering Waves, believe it or not, and exploration is just always going to be one thing that I adore about these types of games. My favorite part about taking breaks from Genshin Impact is that I can come back and I can do hours of exploring every day because there's just always so much to do. I've literally 100%ed every single region, every single area on the map now, except for that new Mondstadt place and the moon, which I'm chipping away at, and I'm really excited to continue exploring, and I'm very excited for Snezhnaya because that's more exploration, that's more unique characters, and I hope that this new story is going to be good. I hope that it's not going to be a letdown because, this is the climax that so many players have been waiting for. Playing from the very beginning of the game and that there's 7 nations and now we're almost at the 7th, it's wow, I can't believe that we've actually gotten to this point. I also know some people, like my sister, for example, who don't really play the game. I don't think that they very, enjoy it, but my sister is also someone who made an account when the game came out, and she is excited to play the game again when Snezhnaya comes out, and I understand how she feels being nervous, hoping that they don't blow it like they did a couple other regions. I know that a lot of people on the internet are very negative towards Genshin Impact players, and I do just want to say that there's no shame in playing a game that you like. There's no shame in enjoying the characters. There's no shame in enjoying the gameplay. There's no shame in it. Don't be embarrassed for playing the game. Do be embarrassed for playing the game if you are toxic and you are rude to other people. That is embarrassing. But there's nothing inherently wrong with playing a game. If you like it, then you like it. You don't have to worry about how other people might perceive you for playing the game, because at the end of the day, it's for fun and it doesn't matter. You're not hurting someone. You're not blowing up people's houses. So if you like Genshin Impact, that's great. Good for you. However, one thing that I think a lot of Hoyo players should keep in mind is that there are many other games in existence. There are other companies other than Hoyoverse. There are a lot of indie developers who I'm sure they would love some kind of support on their games. So don't get too obsessed with Hoyoverse. Like, yeah, Hoyo games are fun, but that's not the only thing that's out there. So have some other fun, try out some other games, and maybe you'll have a new point of view when you're coming back to Genshin. I feel like at this point I'm kind of yapping and I might be getting redundant, so yeah, I hope that you could agree with some of my takes at least. I mean, they're not very hot, but I feel like this is not a debate that needs to be had. I feel like I don't know why people can't, like, see it the way I do. Okay, that's so stupid. But yeah, no, I think that this isn't a debate that needs to be had. Like, it's just so obvious, to me at least, like, the real problems and what isn't really important, because I know that a lot of people nitpick on the small things about Genshin rather than the major issues that most players could see. Yeah. Thank you for watching my video. I'm glad that you stayed to the end. I am Flinsy, and I'm out.